Hello ladies, man, and non-binary friends. Welcome back to my channel. This video was supposed to come out a month ago, but that was before DreamWorks decided to be fucking assholes. This video went through 6 different edits and got claimed and blocked every single time. That's also the reason why there's no video or audio from the movie, because every time I had 0.2 seconds of a scene from Rise of the Guardians, the video would get claimed again. I never thought it would be this hard to talk about a movie that I like so much, but here we are. Thank you to everyone who gave me suggestions on my community posts. I really appreciate you trying to help me out. Unfortunately, the way YouTube is right now, they almost always side with the corporation and copyright claimers. If you could give this video a watch, I would really appreciate it, especially because it's probably going to get nerfed for only having still images. If I ever start a Patreon, I'll release the full uncut version there for those of you who are interested, but thank you so much. Let's get into the video. Guys, I popped an edible at 11:30 on a Friday night, turned on this movie, and didn't blink until I saw the credits roll. I was in complete awe, mouth agape, loud and applauding the entire time. I mean, I remembered liking it as a kid, but I feel like I didn't fully grasp how fucking cool this movie is until now. The twist on children's cultural myths, the animation that is nothing less than absolutely stunning, the lore, the jokes, the vocals, each of these pieces all culminating in a satisfying cinema experience that made my brain tingle with those chemicals that make you feel, what is it again? Oh, right. Happy? I don't know if it's partially nostalgia or the longing for a simpler time, but I'm gonna do my best to convince you that Rise of the Guardians is an epic masterpiece deserving of immense notoriety and prestige. First of all, this movie does not stop. The pacing is exceptional. There is so much packed in this movie, and I feel like they're able to explain the world and the lore without overindulging or overcomplicating it. This movie feels so full of story, and the only physical comparison I can make is to my annual gorging on my Thanksgiving meal. I felt so full and satisfied after watching this movie. There was nothing more that needed to be explored, but that doesn't mean I didn't want to go back for one more helping. The other very obvious standout in this film is the iconic character design. I was the perfect age to watch this movie as a kid. When I left the theater, I went straight to Tumblr, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. I was not only a dedicated Jack Frost fan, but also an avid participant in the Rise of the Tangled Brave Dragons fandom. If you know, you know. You look at these characters, and while they may not look exactly like you pictured them in your childhood stories, you can pretty much piece together who's who. Rise of the Guardians is the first and only movie to make the Easter Bunny look like a fucking badass. Santa Claus, also a badass. The Tooth Fairy looks like something you'd see Lady Gaga wear to an awards show. She's iconic. I mean, what character looks like this? This is so unique and awesome. I also love that she's like the weird girl, TM. Jack was born to be the heartthrob in any mainstream anime, and Sandman, well, Sandman's just adorable. All the vocal performances in this movie are outstanding. I'm a big advocate for getting big Hollywood out of voice acting because there are some people that just are not built for it. Voice acting and film acting are two incredibly different mediums, just like film acting and stage acting are two different mediums. And sure, there's some crossover between the two, but I think it's arrogant to say that a live action actor can be a voice actor. I also think that it's kind of criminal how so many Hollywood actors who have no voice acting training are taking lucrative gigs away from very talented voice actors. That being said, everybody in this movie slays, and all the vocals here are great. This is probably the only kids' animated film with all popular Hollywood voice actors that I have absolutely no qualms about casting. Another standout in this movie is the incredibly well-written themes. Jesus, I can't speak without my voice cracking because I'm an 11-year-old boy! Another standout in this movie is the incredibly well-written themes of faith, fear, and identity. We'll dig into these later, but I want you to keep these in your mind throughout the video. The major themes are faith, fear, and identity. Each of these themes are prominently incorporated not only into our story, but each of our main characters as well. This is a movie with some of the most consistency in theme that I've seen in a while. I think it's partially because my brain has been melted by the garbage that Disney and Marvel are putting out lately, so this was a nice cleanse. But first, a quick disclaimer. As someone who is working through their own religious trauma, I know that the word faith can bring up a lot of feelings for people. For me, it's associated with ignoring facts and crucial evidence to blindly obey the teachings of Christianity. It's been used to ignore trauma and argue that it's all in God's plan. The list goes on, and I'm hardly the first person to be affected by this. I use the word faith, and I talk about faith a lot in this video, but I just want to make clear that just because I'm speaking about faith as a concept in a positive light, this is not a pro-Christianity video. When I'm speaking about faith, it is exclusively related to the Guardians' relationship to the moon. If I could use literally any other word, I would, but I can't, so here we are. I just wanted to touch on this briefly because I know that there's plenty of you who won't think twice at the mention of the word faith, but The rest of us, it's a little bit more complicated. Thank you for listening. Back to the video. This movie has such an iconic and beautiful entrance that pulls you in right away. We start as we always do in a movie theater, in complete darkness. Then we hear the soft, gentle whisper of Chris Pine's narration. DreamWorks is going to cuck me if I use the audio, so you're just going to have to deal with my voiceover for now. Darkness. That's the first thing I remember. It was dark. It was cold. I was scared. But then I saw the moon. It was so big and it was so bright. It seemed to chase the darkness away. And when it did, I wasn't scared anymore. Why I was there and what I was meant to do, that I'd never know. And a part of me wonders if I ever will. We basically see the birth of Jack Frost in this scene. This young man emerging from underneath an icy pond. He's being lifted by an unknown force into the night sky, clearly feeling afraid, lost. And then a sense of calm floods over him. Then we see him pick up what looks like a shepherd's hook and witness his powers for the first time. These gorgeous ice fractals spread across the trees. God damn it, this shit is so fucking whimsical and beautiful. I want all fantasy magic to look like this. This is fucking sick as hell. We see him smile as he plays with his powers, stumbling across the ice and flying through the air. This shit is so magical. We feel so good. We are so happy for Jack. Then we come upon the frightening discovery that he can't be seen or touched by any mortal soul. My name is Jack Frost. How do I know that? The moon told me so. That was all he ever told me. And that was a long, long time ago. So, why do I love this scene so much? What does the scene tell us right away? We're immediately given all of our themes on a silver platter to pick at and dine on for the rest of the movie. I love this. It's a great character introduction, but it also provides focus to the story. It gives the audience a chance to ask themselves, okay, why are we here? What should we be focusing on? Where is the story going to go? Narratively speaking, darkness is immediately associated with fear. Darkness. That's the first thing I remember. It was dark, it was cold, and I was scared. This obviously comes into play again when we're introduced to our main villain, Pitch Black, the literal manifestation of darkness and fear. Fucking cool. Additionally, we learn that the moon is an entity associated with guidance, comfort, safety, and light. Almost like a deity. Or a god. Hold on to this for later when we talk about faith. Lastly, we have the nagging question in our brains that we get from Jack's intro. Where did he come from? Why is he here? What is his purpose? Why can't anyone see him? Obviously, this ties directly into identity. But we spent a lot of time on Jack, so let's jump to Snow Daddy himself, and my favorite interpretation of Santa Claus ever, Nicholas St. North. Granddaddy Claus. As a kid watching this movie, I would swoon over Jack Frost. I thought he was the cutest thing ever, and now that I'm grown, for some reason, Snow Daddy hits different. From a non-thirsty standpoint, I think that making Santa Claus into a beefy man with tattoos named North is an interesting choice that makes an overly popularized character a little bit more unique in this interpretation. Santa is cool now, everyone, and kind of scary, but in a good way, and he's got fucking swords now. That's sick. But from a thirsty standpoint, why is his right hand the naughty hand? Aren't you crafting with that hand? Or are you spanking with that hand? Sir, what are you doing on your weekends? I'm gonna be honest, I could see this man picking up Russian women for a ride on his North Pole every weekend. Everyone loves this leg. Somebody put me in a mental institution. In all seriousness, I really like that we start out with North as the first guardian that we meet. Obviously, Jack Frost is a known tale, but Santa Claus is like the guy for most children. When we start the movie in present day, we open on North. It's familiar. We can tell he's in his workshop, and even though the lore is slightly different, you know, the elves are idiots, Santa carves with ice, not wood, and the Yetis are actually the workers, and they have their own little Yeti language that sounds like Jabba the Hutt. They're so cute! It's still pretty familiar, and it's a great place to get our footing once the movie actually starts. On rewatch, I really enjoyed North stepping into the role of mentor figure for Jack Frost. North is really the only one, I feel, that could have filled this role because he has such conviction and confidence in his ideals and his identity, and Jack does not. That's the one aspect of Jack's life where he feels totally and completely lost, and North senses this. I get chills during his wonder monologue every time. If you haven't listened to it in a while, link in the description. It is fucking beautiful, dude. Anyway, essentially, he talks about his big eyes, his big, beautiful blue eyes, and how he has these big eyes that are full full of wonder. And this wonder is what sees lights in the trees, magic in the air. This wonder is what he puts into the world and what he protects in children. And this wonder, this essence that he carries with him, is what makes him a guardian. And during that speech, Jack gains immense respect for North and comfort around him because he has exactly what Jack wants. North knows who he is. He's confident in his purpose and identity, and he's a really good guy. So let's talk about North's relationship with the themes. North is the character that best represents completely giving into faith, almost to a fault. North has complete faith that the moon made the right decision picking Jack as a guardian. North has complete faith that Jack can save them. North has faith that the children will believe, faith that everything will work out. He never gives up. He never relents. He never relinquishes hope. He's the first guardian to reach out to Jack and connect with him personally. He's the one to suggest that they collect the teeth when the fairies get captured, and he has no fear. He's intimidating while still being warm and paternal. He never backs down in the face of danger. We don't really see him succumbing to fear at any point, but we see him completely surrendering to faith. He's completely overcome by it. He's confident in his identity. And he's buff as hell and badass, which I'm sure helps with the dealing with the fear part. This is just a quick little thing, but I fucking love the intro to Jack as a guardian, and I think this is a great lesson in subtle world building. When the moon picks a new guardian, we're shown this big-ass crystal in the middle of the room. We don't know what it is, what it does, where it came from, why it's important, but it doesn't really need to be explained. It's just a cool thing that we see once, and we never see it again. This is great. I feel like I've become so jaded by MCU properties where everything needs to be fucking explained ad nauseum. It's insulting to your audience. Please stop doing this. I love that this is just a cool thing that's included in the story. There's no real need for it. The moon could have just told them that Jack was the new guardian, but that would have been kind of lame. Instead, the writers were like, you know what? Let's get this big fucking crystal to tell him the new guardian is Jack Frost. We assume it to be this fortune-telling, prophecy-related crystal. We can piece that together ourselves. But it doesn't need to be explained. Sometimes you can just put cool shit in your stories, and that's great. And I would like to see more things like that in more stories. That's a quick little rant over. The moment the moon chooses Jack to be the new guardian, we immediately see the mixed reaction from the group. Tooth is absolutely dripping. Girl, get that dick. Bunny vehemently despises him for messing with his egg hunts in the past. North seems generally neutral but leaning towards positive. You can kind of see him rationalize why Jack might have been chosen. It's implied in the lore that we've all heard that Jack is kind of known for being a scamp or a rapscallion. It's nice that we get this mini character evaluation from existing guardians about his personality, his behavior, his reputation, and see just how different these opinions of Jack are. It shows familiarity between the other guardians and Jack, even if they haven't officially met in the story yet. I like this idea that there's just a bunch of spirits that kind of know each other and maybe gossip about each other. That's just interesting to me. I'd be interested to see what other spirits are in this world. But I also think it's a good starting point for Jack because he isn't known for just one thing. His identity is undecided and inconsistent between different people. To some, he might just be a silly, albeit misguided spirit. To others, he might be a hottie with a body. And to Bunny, he's a misbehaved little shit. Next, we see Jack learn that he's been chosen to become a guardian. Jack has been asking for over 300 years for the moon to tell him his purpose, to ask him why he was put on this earth. And after all this time, he gets his answer, but not from the moon directly. It's told to him by someone that he doesn't really know or respect. And now we have our crisis of faith. The moon is demanding, not just asking, that Jack Frost have faith in this situation, because a direct answer wouldn't be faith. Jack is understandably upset by this, and Chris Pine leaves no crumbs here. Jack calls out in anger to an unfeeling god who before this had absolutely no regard for him. And now this being that he's been essentially praying to for centuries assigns him a role that feels like a prison sentence to him. He talks about the Guardian's responsibilities with such disdain and disinterest. Like, how could the moon possibly think that this could be my destiny? And not even have the decency to tell me himself. God damn it, I love this scene. It's probably because I grew up Catholic and I have a lot of religious trauma that I still haven't processed. But seeing Jack outright reject his calling in front of everybody is pretty satisfying. Shortly after, we meet our villain, Pitch Black, voiced by Jude Law. Ugh, iconic. And honestly, he's such a great villain, especially for this story. Like, what is a better villain than the literal personification of darkness and nightmares? So I have a theory about Pitch. Get comfortable with your aluminum hats for a moment. My theory is that he is an ex-guardian. He helped children during the Dark Ages. So what do the Guardians do? The Guardians protect children. What do children like to do? They like to do dangerous, stupid shit because they don't know any better. What keeps a child from running into the dark woods with predators on the prowl? Fear. He's the one that protected them in the only way that they needed to be protected, which was just staying alive and surviving. As soon as humans got to the point and time where we were developing our own survival protections, our own comforts and luxuries, there wasn't such an intense need for this fear of the outside world anymore. We had things like light, shelter, agriculture, and we were able to overcome natural selection on our own. It served humans at one point, but not anymore. At one point, Pitch was probably one of the most, if not the greatest power in the world, and that's why he's so fucking bitter. The world doesn't need him anymore, at least not nearly as much as they once did. And Pitch is also the first character we meet that has anything in common with Jack. Maybe I want what you have, to be believed in. Pitch and Jack suffer the same fate of wanting to be believed in, but it not being so. Ooh, Jack has a shared interest with the villain. Then we learn the cruel rule of this world, that if children stop believing, these guardians are forced to decay and fade into absolute nothingness. What? The stakes have risen. The stakes have immediately risen. And I guess it's a good thing that Jack didn't want to become a guardian just yet. When we get to Tooth Palace, the Guardians discover that the little tooth fairies have been captured by anthropomorphic nightmares. And Jack learns about the significance of the teeth, how they're associated with the most important memories of childhood. And Jack also learns that his own baby teeth were there too, and that he had an entire life before becoming Jack Frost. And this kind of rocks his shit up. He's now completely renewed with purpose and finding the teeth to learn about his past. Since the fairies have been taken, North suggests that they collect the teeth themselves. This next bit is actually pretty adorable. We have this little comedic segment where Bunny and North and Jack all compete to collect the most teeth in one night. We get some competition, lighthearted character dynamics, some banter, some bonding. It's cute. And then we get this. You guys collect teeth and leave gifts as fast as my fairies. You guys have been leaving gifts, right? I don't care what anyone says, that's fucking funny. Especially seeing the Sandman, the Easter Bunny, and Santa Claus all waiting at an coin-operated laundry to make change. I gag at this scene every time. I love it so much. And this is just such a lighthearted example of like stupid boy shit, of making something into a competition needlessly and then forgetting a crucial detail. Anyway, so fun. After this fun little outing, we get arguably the darkest part. Who is texting me? Leave me alone. I'm filming a video. After this fun little outing, we get arguably the darkest part of the movie. We have a brawl with the nightmares, and everybody joins in. They do their best to hold them off, but Sandy is surrounded and gets fucking torpedoed by Pitch. I remember seeing this for the first time and being like, oh my fucking god, they fucking killed him. They killed my precious little guy. That was gruesome. Flooded with rage after losing his friend, Jack unleashes hell on Pitch, his ice fractals breaking the nightmares into dust. And we get Jack's first anime power-up. Despite their best efforts, Sandy is still gone and Jack is beside himself, feeling like he could have done more and doubting himself once again if he's really cut out for this. Why was he chosen? He's given some comforting words from North saying that Sandy would be proud of what he did. But we can kind of tell that Jack is still struggling in his grief and confused that he can't remember anything about his life while he was on Earth. At this point in the story, fear is wiping out the children's belief in hope and light. Children are now only experiencing nightmares, which sounds awful, oh my god. But fear not, kiddos, Easter is just around the corner. While the Guardians are prepping for Easter Sunday, Jack hears someone calling his name, a familiar voice, a distant memory. He's called to Pitch's hideout by this distant echo. Guys, he lives under a bed. The boogeyman lives under a bed. It is so deliberate and in your face. I fucking love it. Pitch stalls by baiting Jack into a fight, then he starts berating him with degradations, flooding his mind with anxious thoughts, appealing to his deepest fears and insecurities. Pitch takes the last tooth fairy that Jack had been protecting and gives Jack his baby teeth that he knew he wanted, incriminating him when he returns back to the Guardians, tricked and defeated. It's Easter Sunday, and the nightmares have destroyed all the eggs. The kids are devastated, and they don't believe in the Easter Bunny anymore. This is diabolical, and this plan is masterfully executed. Then we get this nail in the heart from Bunny. He starts off angry at Jack, his usual MO of turning to aggression, but he's just so defeated, and there's no more life in him that he just turns away. This is the last proverbial nail in the coffin to the Guardians. Jack flies away, believing that they're better off without him. Angry that his selfish desires led to his new friends getting hurt, he attempts to throw the teeth off the cliff, but he just can't manage to do it. Pitch tries to appeal to Jack's humanity, saying that he knows what it's like and that he understands Jack's anger. Pitch tempts him with the prospect of having a family and belonging, and that they could be much more powerful together, and that if they worked together, the children could believe in them both. Then we get angsty Jack saying, "You don't understand anything!" And it's just firing blows back and forth at each other. Jack makes clear that he doesn't want to work with Pitch. He doesn't want to be feared. He wants nothing to do with the situation anymore. Pitch kind of kicks his ass and throws him in a crevice, and his staff is destroyed, and he's all alone. And this is our lowest point in the story for Jack. But you know what? He's got a little tooth fairy buddy, so it could be worse. At this point, Jack is finally able to witness his memories. He sees his own heroic acts playing like a movie in his head, using a simple game of hopscotch to calm the anxious fear of his little sister huddled over a cracked, icy pond. And he saves her life, at the cost of his own. Jack is unable to recognize all the brave, inspiring things he's done this entire movie, and unable to believe that he was ever meant for this until he sees his own sacrifice in front of him. He's come to learn about his past and finally has a direction for the future. Jack comes into his own, believing in himself that yes, he can do this. I'm a guardian. His staff comes together and we get a second anime power-up. At this point, Jack is now renewed with self-purpose and motivation to make the world better. He goes to find the last light, a kid named Jamie who believes in everything. Santa, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Bigfoot, all the heavy hitters. But his faith is being tested after experiencing only nightmares for days and Easter being ruined. Jamie tries to find some proof that the Easter Bunny exists, and Jack gives it to him the only way that he can, by making a little bunny out of snow and bouncing it around Jamie's room. Upon seeing the falling snow, Jamie recalls the name of a legend that his mother had remarked upon earlier that week. Jack Frost? Upon speaking his name, Jack becomes fully realized in front of Jamie, seen, heard, and all. It's a beautiful moment. Jack gets emotional. I get emotional. Jack is almost in disbelief. After 3 long centuries, someone finally sees him. You can hear him getting choked up about it. I shed a tear. I shed a few tears. He sees me. He sees me. Oh my god. I love this movie so goddamn much. Then we head into the final battle. Pitch comes back and he's come into his power completely. The Guardians have been weakened. They can barely stand on their own feet anymore. It's basically just Jack that can fight back, and even he knows he's not a match for Pitch alone. Jamie turns to Jack with the same words and expression that his sister had all those years ago, the day he gave his life to save her. Jack, I'm scared. Jack reassures him the same way that he did back then. You're gonna be all right. We're gonna have a little fun instead. Fun always beats fear. Jack beat fear with fun over 300 years ago when he saved his sister playing a game of hopscotch. And he does this again on this night. I have to ask, is this why the moon chose him? Because he knew that he could realistically be the only one to defeat Pitch, the manifestation of fear? If so, that is some good fucking writing. And if not, pretty lucky, I guess. They gather the neighborhood kids and make a little ragtag team. Jamie, now untethered from his fear, touches the dark nightmare dust, turns it gold. His joy and bravery literally sucking the fear out of the pure dream dust. So much so, they were united with an old friend. That's right, he's fucking back, baby! The Sandman has returned! Sandman opens up his own can of whoop-ass, the Guardians get their second wind, and they go full speed ahead against Pitch and his nightmares. He's taken down, the kids don't see him anymore, they don't believe in him, and Pitch is eventually devoured by his own nightmares. His own fear, his own creation. That is some poetic shit. I was watching this with my mom the second time around, and she said that it was like very similar to the Hades scene. I don't know if you guys have seen the Hercules, the Disney Hercules, but it is, she's absolutely right. But she was like, I don't want to make any untoward assumptions, but it looks pretty similar. Guys, my mom's a critic. Okay, like, you better watch yourself. I better watch myself. She's gonna come for my throne. Jack takes his oath, becomes a guardian, starts his new journey, and then Jack puts his little snowflake spell on us so we can all have fun as we're leaving the theater. This movie is very fond in my memories, and I can't help but feel like these themes are inextricably linked to the conflicts that we're facing every day. This pandemic has put me through a boot camp of sorts for my identity. I'm more confident in who I am than I've ever been, and I still have questions. We're all just finding our way in this broken fucking system. You know, who are we? What is our purpose? Our destiny? What are we supposed to be doing? What is happiness? How do we find it? Did we even know what it is to begin with? I feel so fucking debilitated seeing my rights and the rights of other people that I care about being taken away. Or when I see the same terrible shit happening and nothing being done to make it any better. It's fucking embarrassing for us as a country, but it also makes me want to crawl up and die. I'm definitely guilty of surrendering myself to the doom spiral, and there are times when I know I can pull myself out of it, but it's just easier to sit in comfortable sadness or dread. And I'm not saying to blindly ignore your feelings of dread or displeasure either. I think the world deserves a fair amount of fuck you critique. But there is a threshold when that displeasure becomes self-sabotaging. It's no longer productive. It adds to your anxious thoughts and depressive thoughts, and it negatively affects your happiness. I know in the end this is a kid's animated film, but I started crying when Jamie stood up to Pitch Black, an all-powerful deity of fear, and said, I do believe in you. I'm just not afraid of you. Recognizing the world around you is significantly fucked is completely valid. I believe there are deep-rooted systemic issues that we need to work through as a society, but we can't allow ourselves to be controlled by the fear, because that is how these systems win. That is how they keep us small, and that is how these corrupt systems maintain control. My favorite quote from Uncle Iroh is, in the darkest times, hope is something you give yourself. That is the meaning of inner strength. Whether that means having faith, reading up on positive news stories, or taking action in your life to make the world a better place, there are ways we can enjoy this life, fight against fear, and make things better. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye.